Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat. I'm your host, Chris Revel, coming from the Cat Cave in Warwick, Rhode Island. Let's Chat is a long-form conversational chat where I, your host, Chris Revel, use my behavioral health background and my obsession with pop culture to chat with folks from the world of punk rock, podcasting, and pop culture. Today, we hit all three boxes with this one with Caroline and Nicole. They are the host of the Defining Disney podcast, a podcast that seeks out the ultimate question, what is the best Disney animated film? And they use a scientific rubric they've created to figure out this answer, because this is the kind of people they are, and this is why we love them. They love pop culture as much as I do. Like, it's my subconscious, it's in my blood. Everything to me is a pop culture reference, and it's I always say it's for Let's Chat really is for a show who people who just love pop culture a little bit too much. And Caroline and Nicole definitely fit that venue. So Caroline and Nicole and I met. I think they met with producer Bree, who was not able to make this intro today. Sorry, Bree. We'll get her on the next one. And we had hosted a watch party of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with See You Live in August when Let's Chat turned 7. I can't believe we're turning 8 this year. Jesus. And Caroline and Nicole ended up coming to our watch party. We had so much fun. And then I remember Caroline coming on to one of our Let's Chat meetings to invite us to be guests on their podcast. And then around that a little bit later, we started the Let's Chat Club, and they became members and have just become good friends. Nicole and I hosted a Marvel Cinematic Universe panel, and that was a ton of fun. I actually got sick halfway through, so she had to cover for me. But thank you, Caroline. And these are people I feel like if we all lived in the same area, we would hang out all the time. I feel fortunate now I can call both of their husbands, Stephen and Kevin, friends. Kevin and I have done Let's Chat Live together, which we loved, which was really fun. And Stephen actually came on to this episode for a little bit. Apparently he's very camera shy, but he heard us talking about ska, so we invited him on. He came in to chat with us. We're going to have to get him on an episode or Let's Chat Live or something, because I really like this guy. He's awesome. And just so much fun. Meeting Caroline and Nicole. Oh my God, their Disney knowledge blows me out of the water. Like, I, by no means a Disney nerd. I enjoy Disney very much, but my God. I was a guest on their episode where we covered Lady and the Tramp. And I've been on a lot of podcasts. I make a podcast for almost 8 years now. I've never met anyone who works as hard as Caroline and Nicole. Oh my God, I got like 7 pages of notes before I went on their episode, like outlining the episode, because they're just so thorough. And the amount of work they have to put into, they have to watch the movie. Often they do a watch party on Twitter, which I definitely recommend you join. Those are super fun. And they do office hours. Like, they've really built this wonderful community with Defining Disney, which it's an honor to be a part of. And I really can't wait for all of you to listen to this. And I truly believe if they stick with it, which I think they will, this is going to be a podcast that you're going to see on like iHeartRadio one day. Like, they got the it factor, if you will. So that's enough of me about singing their praises, because I could do that all day. I'm just such a fan, and it's so great to have them in our Let's Chat Club. If the Let's Chat Club is something you're interested in joining, shoot us a message on any of the social medias at Let's Chat Podcast. We'll give you some more information. It's a really great way to network and connect. We just had a class hosted by a professional therapist and coach, Nikolai Blino, about like burnout, and it's been a lot of fun. Quick housekeeping. I was also recently a guest on Cyber Time Bite. Shout out to Stephen. That was a ton of fun. I'll be a guest, I believe, in August on the Jock Doc podcast. They were one of our Let's Chat Live guests. They were awesome as well. That was a lot of fun. And we have to give a huge shout out to our friend Robbie Sherman from Conversations with Robbie for editing this episode for us. He's going to be on a future episode of Let's Chat Live. We can't wait for that. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what's Let's Chat Live? Well, Let's Chat Live is our video podcast hosted by myself and producer Bree, and we have a rotating Let's Chat Club members also host from time to time as well. And we seek out podcasters and the podcasts that we're listening to and we think you should listen to. It is all a video. It's on our Facebook and our YouTube page. We now are going to be releasing these episodes in our Let's Chat with Chris Revel feed for about 1 to 2 weeks. Then they will disappear, the audio feed, and they will be behind our member access. You can have access to those on our Patreon, which is Let's Chat Media. Let's Chat, patreon.com/Let's Chat Media. So feel free if you'd like to make a donation. It would mean the world. And if you're also looking for stickers, merch, anything like that, We have a TeePublic, tpublic.com/Let's Chat Podcast. And I'll try to keep it short, but I had so much fun on this episode. Oh, and one last thing, another big thank you to Mark Hirschon for including us a couple months ago in Vulture's This Week in Podcast with our Chris Gethard episode, which was quite the honor to make it into Vulture again. And if you're listening to this in real time and near the Providence area, Wednesday, June 30th, I'm going to be performing at Pachacacha. I think I said that right. It's a storytelling event. I'm really excited about that. You can find all that information on our Facebook. And last thing before I sign off, make sure you join our Facebook group at Let's Chat Community. It's been so much fun. It's really growing. We're getting more interactive, and it's been great. And the true last thing I'll say, the next episode we'll be posting will be with Matt, who plays trumpet in Streetlight Manifesto. A big shout out to our good friend Sonetta for helping us land that one. I'm really thrilled how that came out. Who else? I know I'm talking with Connor from Boys Night Out is talking about coming on, and our new buddy Dana from the 2 Weeks podcast is we're going to do something soon. So those are what we got in the works, but we're always looking for some more people. If you have anyone you're interested in hearing on here, let them know, let us know. We'd love to talk, and hey, let's get to it. Connected, and now I thought I remembered, but I don't know if I'm misconstruing the memory. But did you and Caroline, did you and Bree get in like a Twitter spat? And then
not a Twitter spat. So
okay. Bree's gonna love this, by the way.
So I was just kind of like starting our social media presence right before launch. So I guess this was like May of last year. And I was like searching for podcast people, like independent podcasts and different things, and found Bree because she had posted something about somebody else's podcast that she was reviewing. And I like clicked on her profile. I was like reading a little bit, and then I scrolled back up to her profile and it said Charlottesville. And I was like, wait a second. That's like an hour from me. And so I messaged her about like podcasting and she had the Let's Chat handle in her bio too. So I like clicked on that and I followed the Let's Chat account, and I messaged her and we kind of started talking about whatever show it was that she had reviewed. And then I mentioned to her that I saw that she's in Charlottesville. She was like, oh yeah, we live in Charlottesville. I grew up in Richmond. I was like, I'm in Richmond. I grew up in Richmond. How old are you? Like, we actually know some of the same people.
Oh, wow.
So I was very heavily involved in choir when I was in high school. And there's a family that had an older son that was, I guess, in school the same time as Bree, that had a younger son in school the same time I was. And so we both know, I guess, opposite ends of that family, basically.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was Twitter, because I remember you came to our, we did our 7th birthday, we did the Spider-Verse watch, too.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember meeting you all. And at that point, too, that was in August, but I think Bree and I started working together. Like, she came on as the original pitch to her was like, hey, come be a producer for Let's Chat with Chris Revel, and then it's spawned into something much bigger and larger.
Yeah, I remember when Caroline found her and she was like, oh my God, this girl Bree has like X thousand number of followers and like she's following us and she's going to review us. Like, this is going to be huge. And I was like, cool, let's do it.
And it was, because she's, as I recently was guest on your podcast, which was super fun, and I'm guess you could tell the difference from how your setup was to ours was like 3 minutes before. I was like, I couldn't get to the computer, and I'm like, I'm hoping you're like, that's why you need a Bree, because she's type A and I'm type A, and that's why we work much better. When she's involved, things go much more smoother ever since I started working with her, because she's the best. So then, how do you two know each other? Because I know like you're couples friends. That's
so.
Great.
I met Nicole's husband, Kevin, when I moved to Florida to work for Disney. He was my trainer when I was training as a lifeguard at the Yacht and Beach Club resorts. And we like to say Kevin has a habit of picking up strays and bringing them home. He sort of gets to vet them before they meet Nicole. He decides which ones are good enough to keep forever, and he brings them home, and they get to meet Nicole. And I was good enough to get to see Nicole. I came over for dinner, and they fed me. Nicole is an incredible cook. Actually, they both are. And they're both Italian, so I believe my first meal with them was pasta. And right. That became a regular occurrence over the course of the next 5 years that I ended up living in Orlando. We then they actually introduced me to my husband, Stephen.
You're in Florida, so like people. I am Italian, but I grew up in the Northeast, so like getting good Italian food down there is probably a little bit different than it is up here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are definitely pockets. We have an old standby Mimi's in Hollywood, Florida, down in South Florida, that is a staple. And then there was a restaurant called John the Baker that was in South Florida as well that we would always frequent. But yeah, finding Italian food, you have to know where to look. And then once you find those pockets, you stick with them. So, you know, I have a little place that's in Lake Nona, not far from my house, where they speak Italian. They'll pick up the phone and answer in Italian and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm used to speaking in Italian," and then they'll repeat the greeting in English. So, like, you know, you find the right place at that point. They make incredible food.
They're called
so
Nona?
Yeah. No, Lake Nona is the town, but the restaurant is called Piazza Italia. And the entire family is from Italy. And they came to America and they opened up this little restaurant, and the familia style is like very, you know, very, very entrenched in the culture. So when you find a place like that, you stick with it.
I lived in Providence for several years, which is like the epitome of it. It's the best Italian food outside of Italy that you can find. I think like New York and the North End, but oh my god, that's so funny. Brie, I know Brie told me, Caroline, that I know you, and I'm so jealous you got to meet her in real life. That you're just everyone's best friend. I'm like, yep, I relate to that too. Like I'm totally the Kevin where in my relationship with my wife, where I pick up all the strays. And people like my friend Nicole always calls me. We call each other friend collectors.
That sounds like Kevin.
Yeah, that's my husband in a nutshell. I am much more reserved at first when I meet people. I'm a lot more. I wouldn't say untrustworthy, but definitely more hesitant. So my husband will meet people and vet them, and then if he likes them and thinks they'll be a good fit, that's when they kind of come into the fold.
That's my dynamic with my wife. That's so funny. Yeah. It makes sense because I love Kevin. We've got to host together for Let's Chat Live, and it's always fun to talk to. But like that makes so much sense. It's our exact same dynamic with my super Italian wife.
Yeah, and that's basically how Caroline came into it. And my husband and I and Stephen all were met freshman year of college, so we've been friends for some time. And that's how we ended up having Stephen and Caroline meet. So we're 100% responsible for that relationship. So
did you do that on purpose? Like before they like met, were you like
low key?
Low key. Yeah. They heard that Stephen was going to be in Orlando for training for his new job, and I had just gotten out of a relationship, and Kevin was like, and Nicole was like,
Were you already married to Kevin when this happened, or like at least serious?
We were engaged. Yeah, he and I have been together since a long time now. But we were engaged to be married at that time. We'd actually just gotten engaged, and that's when we had them.
That's when the two-headed monster happens, because then you're like, oh, I can only hang out with a couple friends now. Well, yeah, I think everyone does that.
Pretty much.
Because if you don't like your friend's partner, like you
don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
This friend, it just hasn't worked, and like,
and Caroline's partner at the time, like he was a little meh. And Steven's partner at the time was long distance, so it was like, okay, well, we need to make this easier. So like, let's give it
easier
a
on
shot.
everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in all reality, you could have lost Caroline, so we were all like, we need to keep Caroline in the fold. So
pretty much. I mean, it was it was. She's intending to stay. With the college program at Disney, there are definitely people that are like, hey, once I'm done with my program, I'm gone. So like, I don't even bother with those people because like you're leaving, and I don't have the energy to maintain a friendship like that.
You're only there for 3 to 6 months, and then you go back to wherever you were, or you go back to school, or you find a new job somewhere. But not me. I moved with the intention of working for the mouse long term, and that's exactly what I did. I worked for Disney for 3 years straight once I moved to Florida.
You just had your anniversary of leaving the company.
Yes,
I did. In my Facebook memories. I was like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah, that happened. That was 2 days ago that I 2 days ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, 2018.
So 2018 was when I left the company. So I was there just over 3 years.
So tell us about your podcast, because I want to make sure we talk about that now and not skip the whole hour and then completely forget about it, because I know there's going to be much Disney talk. And I really want to hear about working at Disney, because I'd actually only been there once in my entire life, and up until recently I didn't ever want to go, and now I do. Really bad. And I blame Defining Disney and the Disney Navigators for that, especially. I was like, oh my god, this sounds so cool. But I think we were supposed to go last year, but so I think this year, which I think might be a little bit better, because my daughter I thought I didn't want to go with a 3-year-old because that's not fun. They can't stay up they got a nap, and I want to have fun, So I think if she's like 5, it's going to be much more of a better experience for me. Maybe her, I don't care.
And she'll remember it more, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm like, we might not have. I'm like in my head, I'm like, we're going to be the people who might not most likely go twice. So maybe we should go. She could remember.
Make it count for sure.
Yeah. The average family saves for 5 years to afford a Disney trip for a week.
Saving 5 years ago.
So it's funny because our podcast was born as a result of COVID. So it is one of those silver linings that we got from COVID. Caroline and Stephen moved out of state the weekend that shutdowns started happening. It was total sheer happenstance, but that was the weekend that they ended up moving out of state.
It was the weekend they shut down college sports.
That was so scary.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a lot going on. I mean, honestly, like there was so much that was happening. Caroline took some time off from work because her work provided like some paid time off because of the closures, to the business and everything. So she was looking for something to do. And she pulled up an old spreadsheet that we had from 5 or 6 years ago when we were originally looking at this idea of ranking the Disney animated canon. And she was like, you'll never guess what I just pulled up. And I was like, oh my God, we have
what did you find?
And she was like, I found the spreadsheet of us doing the Disney canon and ranking it and our rubric. And I was like, oh my God. And she was like, well, I need a project because I have some time on my hands. Why don't we, dig this back up? We have Disney Plus now. Like we have some spare time. Let's dig it up and, give it a fresh face and do something with it. And in the research that she was doing, she was like, well, what about doing a podcast for it? And I was like, great. I want to listen to myself talk all the time. And, it was like, well, not really, but it actually sounds kind of interesting if we were to take it and make it a little bit more personable, because originally it had started as a Tumblr blog of all things, thanks to Caroline as well. But we were like, we're not going the Tumblr route anymore. That's not a thing.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah, so let's look at podcasting, and she found this 6 weeks to launching a podcast thing. So she put in all of these elements of like, this is what we would need to do every single week. A running theme for me is I work a lot. So I was like, hey, if you're able to like come up with what's going on, if I can fit this in on like nights and weekends, because all of this COVID legislation is coming up, I'm working stupid hours, like we can make it work, but like, we got to come up with some structure. Well, luckily, both of us are very structure oriented. So she had this list and this calendar, and it was like, bam, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, and then launch. So in the span of like 6 or 7 weeks, we recorded 6 episodes and 7 episodes and revamped our entire rubric and figured out exactly what we wanted to do. We got the Twitter up and running, and it was a whirlwind. And then in June, we released the first 3 episodes.
I just also, it's one of those moments where you probably didn't realize it because it's just normal to you, but you're the type of people who also just had a rubric kicking around.
Well, so we had created this rubric back in 2015 or 16. As you do. Right, just for funsies, as a project
not?
We were going to work on, because like I said, the weekly dinners was more than weekly. It was like every other night we were going over to their house, or they were coming over to our house, and we watched an inordinate amount of television and film, and so we figured, well, if we're watching Disney movies anyway, why don't we turn this into a project and like put it on the internet for people to read? And so one night we sat down and came up with a rubric. It made no sense.
It was bad.
When I dug it back up, it didn't add up to 100. Like the point values were not balanced.
It was bad.
It was bad. It was real bad. But we were able to pretty quickly kind of rebalance it, turn it into, okay, this is out of 100. This is proportionately what we think everything is worth. We broke the criteria we talked about down further within each category. So like our story category, worth 25 points. We have 4 different criteria that we look at within that category, and we broke each of those down into smaller bite-sized pieces. So you can really look at it objectively, scientifically, with as little bias as possible, and really quantify what is good and bad about a film.
And like that gets us going. We love stuff like this. Like,
yes,
we are spreadsheet nerds. When I met Caroline, she was just as into spreadsheets as she is now. But I had to introduce the components of having the spreadsheet work for you.
Yes,
because I'm the queen of like Excel formulas, making the worksheet do the work for me, conditional formatting, all sorts of fun stuff, pivot tables, all that fun, boring stuff. But thrills me, love it. And I really had to get her.
I will be completely honest,
utilizing it more rather than doing everything manual. I still don't know how to
do a pivot table.
That's okay. We don't need it for the podcast. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we love spreadsheets, but let's
do it,
bring everything together, what you love and what I know how to do, and let's make something that actually works. So now with our podcast, everything is spreadsheet based, so everything is in there. And that's what makes it work.
I don't understand. I'm so blown away by LU2. And when we first met, I was like, oh my God, that's how you do it? But my friend Margie, I forgot, she had some tweet or Instagram thing. She's like, doing spreadsheets will now be called hot girl shit.
Yes.
So just so every time you're doing your spreadsheets, you can be like,
doing hot girl shit.
Doing hot girl shit right now?
I'm doing hot girl shit, so, absolutely.
Spreadsheets are hot girl shit. Yeah, you sound like Victoria, also a fellow a spreadsheet nerd. And then,
clearly we need to meet Victoria.
Yeah, she's over there watching, I can't hear. Probably Star Wars is one, I guess. It's either Schitt's Creek or Star Wars Rebels.
My God, I'm watching Schitt's Creek for the first time, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It's so hilarious.
I've never seen it either, Chris. Don't feel bad.
I actually think it's probably great. And this, one of the characters reminds me of a client I work with. And if you ever have that, it's just, you make that connection and it's just too late. But I love it. I'm sure it's great. I just had to accept that this is going to be a cultural thing I'm going to miss out on. I have a lot of them. This is one of those. I'm like, all right, I'll pick up for other stuff, but just not this particular one. But
it's all right.
Looks incredible.
Caroline,
I still have
she
some
catches
significant
up.
gaps.
Yeah, she catches up on Game of Thrones spoilers when it was coming out like live, and then we would, warn our group chats of like, hey, we're talking about Game of Thrones spoilers when it was still, live. And she was like, that's okay. I'm okay with getting spoiled. And we're like, you don't watch the freaking show. You've only watched like the first 2 seasons. What do you mean? Like, you're not up to date on this. Get out.
Correct. I've only watched the first 2 seasons and I think maybe a couple episodes in the 3rd season, largely because around the time that I was really starting to get into the show was when in the season that they were actually producing at the time, George R.R. Martin and his camp basically gave the producers and writers of the show free reign and said, yeah, okay, do whatever you want at this point. And it became very much not the books anymore. And it honestly, it really upset me because the first season did such a good job of adapting the books. I was really kind of mad because at the point where you start killing people who don't die or keeping people alive who do stay dead, it's not the same material anymore.
But if we're going to wait for George R. R. Martin to release Winds of Winter, like, we're all going to die.
That's entirely fair.
In order to keep the series alive, they had to get that additional, relinquishment of control. But yeah, we do that with all sorts of like nerdy pop culture stuff.
Same. I miss Game of Thrones too, and I'm so glad I did because the way that ended, like, I probably would have gone back and watched the whole show if it even ended like okay. But like, there's other show like How I Met Your Mother, like that last episode and season were so bad it ruined the entire series for me.
Don't even get me on that soapbox.
Never,
let's do it.
Never watched that one. Only watched like individual bits and pieces. Did watch Game of Thrones. I was not as terribly upset as most people were, because I think that the end result that we got was what I was expecting. But the last season or even last 2 seasons were very rushed. So like, if you weren't expecting it or you couldn't make those leaps in your head, you were never going to be satisfied. And, I still have my gripes with it. I rewatched the entire series relatively recently within the last 6 months or so, because I still find it enjoyable. But, when I get to the last 2 seasons, I like start bitching out loud and I'm like,
do you skip around? Because like if I watch something again, I'll skip. Like I watch Sopranos again. I've watched it so many times, like I skip around after season 3.
Oh no, I can't.
Don't need this episode. Don't need this episode.
I watch everything start to finish again.
Oh my god, you're so Victoria.
like okay, so I've watched.
When do we all get along?
I watched 16 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. They're on season 17 right now, and that is so. There's 16 seasons on Netflix, and then season 17 is on Hulu because it's live right now. That's my fall asleep show. So that will be on every single night. I have watched that series probably more times than I can count, but no, I'm watching it in order every freaking night. Like
even the night before her wedding, it was on her tablet.
Well, yeah, you gotta have comfort.
Yep, absolutely. I also felt like trash the night before my wedding.
That's true.
Like,
you were really sick.
Like, yeah, I got like this 24-hour bug. Like, it wasn't even like
cold or something.
Yeah, it wasn't even like I was shit-faced, like enjoying myself. No, I was just sick. So yeah, I watched Grey's Anatomy. I think I had that the night before your wedding too. I got a really bad migraine. But I turned on something else. I think, it was fall. So football season was in. So I was watching college football. Like, I'll just turn on stuff that like makes me feel good. But yeah, if I'm watching a TV show, like I have to watch the whole thing start to finish. There's no like picking up, putting down. I can't, I am so linear that like, it's painful.
I like that. Well, like I know like Veronica Mars, which I still love. That last episode of when they did, I don't know if anyone watched it, but like the Hulu season, that last episode made Victoria so upset she'll never watch Veronica Mars again.
Wow.
I didn't watch Veronica Mars.
Me either.
I did hear the same thing. It was a lot like How I Met Your Mother. Like the last season.
I disagree. I personally loved it. I thought it made plenty of sense. I didn't want to see the way they did it, but Hamian was worse because not only was it a bad episode, they spent an entire season I'm going to stop.
They spent an entire season setting up something only for the very last like 15 minutes
to erase
and completely eliminate the entire point of the series because
it was the same title, How I Met Your Mother. Surprise, it's about your aunt, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have pissed me off so bad.
So mad.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Ted and Robin is not a ship that I will ever ship.
No.
And
I don't like Ted either.
I really liked all of season 7 with Barney and Robin and Barney actually finding his humanity and some maturity. And I love Neil Patrick Harris as an actor. He did fantastic work in that show.
If he was heterosexual, that show would have been disgusting. It was only funny because he was making fun of that type of straight dude.
Yes, it's entirely satire because he was a gay man making fun of straight men stereotypes, and it was wonderful. He was
such a douchebag.
Yes.
Oh my god. No, I feel like we're all very similar, and I kind of feel that way too. From I think a lot of the people we've kind of gravitated towards through Twitter, and now we formed Let's Chat Club and our crew. But I feel like we're all people at least myself, I know, I get very, very emotionally attached to pop culture. So maybe another thing was in ways I don't. I think everyone else does, but apparently that's not the case. But I like my music. I can't just I can't just like a movie. I have to buy the movie. I have to watch the commentary, and then now this is pre-YouTube. I would watch more DVDs and stuff. I had tons of DVDs, and then now it's I watch WandaVision or anything I have to go immediately on YouTube and watch the top 10. I watched so many videos.
Top 10 Easter eggs you might have missed.
Oh, dude, okay, so literally
this is Mephisto? That's Mephisto?
My lunch break every day, I work at a bank, and every day I take my lunch break in my office because we don't really have people coming in right now. And so I take my lunch break in my office. I set up, whatever I've ordered for lunch that day, or on the rare occasions that I bring it. And I have a little pen holder that's an owl, and he has a little book in his hands, but that means his hands are out. And so what I do is I rest my phone sideways against the little owl, and I watch new rock stars on YouTube, and I watch Eric Voss break down the Easter eggs in whatever Marvel content or whatever Star Wars content has just come out. So I watched all of his Mandalorian ones. I watched all of the trailer ones that he did when they did Investors Day back in December, and they announced all of the coming projects. Yeah, I watched all of his I watched literally every single WandaVision theory out there that he did. Because
get him. I bet if we tried, we could probably get him on the show, and then
that would be sick.
That wouldn't be improbable. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, he is getting a little bigger. He did just go on GMA, so Disney is taking notice.
Yeah, fame is such a weird thing because people that I think are super famous, no one knows who they are, and people I have no idea are household names. So yeah, I wonder. I'll get to work. It might take a while, but I'll try to see if I'm sure if we do 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, we might.
And they do a podcast now, so they're
they're in our space.
Yeah, they are. So they do, it's called Inside Marvel. It's on Spotify and probably some other platforms. It's basically their after show for all of the Disney Plus
I am gonna
series. So it comes out every Friday. They record it immediately after watching the episode, and then they answer some viewer questions. Yeah. They use stereo to interact live with audience members, which is pretty cool. I was trying to figure out that app
my friend does
a month or so ago, but my phone wouldn't log into it because technology hates me. It's fine.
I also admit that sometimes I get a little too ahead of myself with that stuff. But I feel kind of with a podcast, you should really dream big, because why not? Because say you what is that? Shoot for the moon, land on the shoot for the stars, land on the moon. I don't know if you heard. By the time this comes out, this will already be public. So we ended up with this opportunity to develop and produce a podcast for his name's Sloan Jones. He's George Floyd's uncle. He was GQ's Man of the Year last year, and just kind of in a weird roundabout way, it kind of got connected. And now Bree, Dwight, and I have this has come out. This should be already out. So we're sitting down the other night, a couple days ago, trying to figure out what we're doing, and we wanted to get guests. And I'm all right, we should get Ava DuVernay, Dave Chappelle, and Barack Obama. And Bree and Dwight are what is wrong with you? No. But then, we'll see if it happens. Maybe. There's a chance. I was
it's a high profile case.
Chappelle knows him. Well, I was I actually texted him last night. Hey, Clooney's talking to your lawyers a lot. Do you know Clooney? Yeah, I can talk Clooney. So I don't know if anyone
There you
happens, but I like to think that you should dream really big, and then every so often someone says yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love new rock stars too. I've been getting really into video essays on the internet, like really into them every night.
It's like embarrassing. It's like almost embarrassing for me that like when I get into something, like I'm obsessed with it. Like it's 110%. Oh my God. When I finally
it's my entire personality.
When I finally discovered Broadway in middle school, like on a more than just like Annie kind of thing. Like when I really started understanding it, like, I don't know how my parents didn't like kill me. Because it was the same stuff that I just got absolutely obsessed with on repeat. And it was everything I wanted to do. I really wanted to see Wicked, like more than absolutely anything, because it had just come out within the past year or so when I got into it. And, my parents got me tickets for, the touring company that year, which was spectacular. But like, I honestly don't know how they put up with me, because it was just listening to the same thing on repeat all the time until everybody else was like, you need to find anything else to listen to. So then I would find, something else, and it would just be constant. I would listen to 25th Annual Spelling Bee, and I would just listen to that constantly until I had everything memorized, melodies, harmonies, everything. I read everything you could possibly learn about it. Like, unhealthy, but like that's literally my entire personality. I can't stop. I would like to stop maybe at some point, but I can't. My latest obsession is like nonograms right now, which are like, it's just like a puzzle. It's just like a puzzle similar to Sudoku, where like you shade in the circles based off of like a certain pattern. And like, I'm obsessed. I do it all the time. Like, it's unhealthy, but I've been hooked on it for like a month and I can't stop.
No,
and
I think that's what makes your show so great. I think that level, that thing that's so great for myself and for what you two have been accomplished with your podcast as well, is like, all of a sudden, all those hours of just things that you thought I've had periods in my life where I kind of almost felt shamed for how much knowledge of The Simpsons I would have, but not can do my homework. Very LD. But like all of a sudden you're like, oh, being a Disney nerd is like, it's cool now. I mean, for what you're doing, like you're literally your experts. Like literally, we did Lady and the Tramp, and I'm just and I love your show. I listen to it. I'm just like, what? How do you all know that? I mean,
and it's funny because particularly like both of us were very into music, very into Broadway, especially growing up, and have some like significant musical training. And we also, like I said, consume an inordinate amount of television and film, and frequently will just sit around after it's over and analyze it. Like today, after we finished the episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, we got on the group chat with Kevin and Nicole and our other friends, Kate and Rory, and we said that we were caught up, and immediately just group discussion of the cinematography and the acting and the, just breaking it down.
Foreshadowing, like what we got and what it's leading up to, what
callbacks to previous films.
Can I say something controversial?
What?
I still want to be your friends, but I don't think Sebastian Stan is a good actor.
Oof, yeah, that's tough. I mean, nobody's perfect, but
I cannot get into that show at all. And I love Marvel, but oh my God, him on that show makes I
Have you watched This Week?
Yeah, I thought the first two episodes were pretty I thought the first two episodes were pretty slow, but like now that we're in episode 3 and 4, like I actually care enough to watch it still.
Yeah,
His acting this week, like...
I watched this week. I didn't care enough to do it last night, but I'm still so emotionally raw and almost a little angry because of Wanda.
I mean, I don't really blame you.
Yeah, WandaVision's emotionally scarring, for sure.
I'm 100% serious. Like, I literally had to go to therapy. I
talk
about it in therapy.
I think Disney needs to start paying for my therapy because, oh my God, I'm being just emotionally devastated by them. Just like on the daily now.
Scarlet Witch nails.
Oh, I love that.
My latest thing that's consumed my personality is WandaVision. So I have Scarlet Witch nails. I bought myself a t-shirt that has all the different versions of Wanda through the decades in cartoon form. I also have purchased the leggings from her finale costume where she has her new super suit. They're on back order until June, but I don't care because I bought them.
You got them.
I did.
Well, I mean, I was listening to Machine Gun Kelly's new pop punk album, and now I have blue hair, so I see where you're coming from.
It happens.
I'm the exact same way.
Please watch episode 4 at least of Falcon and Winter Soldier, because Sebastian's acting this week was phenomenal, spectacular from start to finish.
Wanda hit me on a different level too. Like, so I grew up with a heart condition, and then I for years went to and then worked at a summer camp called Hope with Heart for kids with with heart conditions. It's free for the campers. It's like a nonprofit. It's a wonderful organization. I love them to death. It formed me who I am, but one of those things I didn't learn until later in life is not everyone grew up with as much death as I did. So it's a big thing that's come up throughout the therapy. It's like I've had a lot of grief and loss in my life, like a lot more so. Like I'll be in therapy and I look at my therapist and was like, that's not normal. I'm like, oh, what? So then Wanda, I've been in therapy and doing really well with it, but Wanda probably helped me move forward in a bigger way than I expected. But it was taking a hand and ripping down into my subconscious and ripping out the root of everything I've ever had. Like that scene, I watched her have that. I was like, yeah, okay, I've been there. Yep, it did something to me. Or maybe that's why I have a hard time with Bucky. I'm like, who cares?
Well, matters. So the thing for me with Bucky is that he has outlived everyone that has ever been close to him, anyone that he has ever loved, anyone that he's ever had a relationship with, even Steve. And his processing is not as visible and is not being as focused on as Wanda's was in WandaVision. We got to watch her work through her grief and her loss, particularly in the back half of the season. We're not getting as much of that because Sebastian's story and Bucky's story is not necessarily the focus of the narrative, and they've also had to significantly shorten the narrative because of COVID. Their filming was interrupted. The season was originally supposed to be 12 episodes. Now it's only 6.
Oh, wow.
There's an entire subplot that they had to cut out because there was going to be a pandemic in the show. The working title for the show when they were filming was Pandemic Productions.
See, this is why I love talking to you two, because this is the stuff I watched YouTube videos. Because remember we did that Marvel panel together too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my! What was your friend who had seen the 2 first one?
Kate. She's part of our. She and her husband are the third couple in our
smaller chat. Yeah. That we just all we do is talk about nerdy stuff, specifically Marvel. But we have an additional chat because we have a main chat of our main group of friends, and we talk about that, talk just random stuff day in, day out. But then we have a smaller one that so that way the ones that aren't as into, all of our nerdy stuff, they don't have to handle it.
Put up with us.
We have it. Yeah. Because it bombards your phone. There was one morning where they had caught up on either WandaVision or Falcon, and I hadn't woken up yet. And I woke up to 48 unread messages in 10 minutes. And I was like, what is going on?
I love you.
Yeah. So, it's, but yeah, I really like, so far in both of them that, they are talking about trauma and working through those levels of trauma also. Because it is attached with grief and loss. And, there's all of these, it's a very multifaceted level of emotions that everybody is working through. So I think that that's really important to show. I think that we don't have enough representation of when it comes specifically to responding and processing and working through trauma and traumatic experiences. And I think that having that representation is really critical. And I'm glad that Disney is able to put that spotlight on it. So, from your perspective, it really targets that loss and grief and working through that. And then, from my perspective, it tackles trauma and working through that process also. So it's hitting all of these different marks where it's going to be responding, or people are able to respond to it in so many different ways. And I think that that's really valuable. It's making it a more than just a, superhero movie or superhero TV show.
Yeah.
It's making it a lot more complex. And I think that that's really beneficial to the space.
I completely agree.
I did like that thing. I do like how they showed it kind of actually made me. I heard Kevin Smith say on Fat Man Beyond that in this universe that Tony Stark is Jeff Bezos because he's a billionaire and Sam's poor, and Like, like, he's a freaking Avenger. And I guess they were talking about, heck, that's more of like a throwback to like the old Stanley Jack Kirby days too, of like bringing these real world issues, which is metaphor for veterans and stuff. I was like, man, the Falcon. I do like the Falcon. Or maybe I was just in a bad mood last night and didn't want to watch it. I take it all back. You convinced me. I'm gonna watch it tonight. Anyone listening in real time, it just came out yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Episode 4.
Yeah, yesterday, episode 4. Also, question: have you seen Sebastian in anything else other than his role as Bucky?
No.
Okay, highly recommend his arc in Gossip Girl. Highly recommend I, Tonya.
I wanted to see that.
Oh my God, I love I, Tonya. It's on Hulu. I'm obsessed. I love that movie.
I remember that all happened.
So his work outside Marvel is also pretty strong.
Really good, yeah.
I take it all back. My controversial opinion, not so This is like on a Lady and Tramp episode where I'm like, it's not that pop culture relevant. And then the next day I was at a Hot Topic and I saw Lady and the Tramp socks. I think I tweeted, I was like, I am wrong on every level. I was like, Kevin, please make me look good on the podcast. He's like, never. Never. So I guess Wrong Again Rebel. We'll go with that one. But I do love that. Like your Disney love goes so deep, and like the emotional connection to the friends and the family,
you can see behind me.
I see a rose.
This is a Mark Davis cell from Cinderella. That is a limited edition reproduction of his actual hand drawing of Jack and Gus from Cinderella, and then that is from a wine and paint night that we did as an Ohana at the mall at Florida Mall.
Yeah.
At Florida Mall in Orlando. I have one. This is mine, and then my husband's is somewhere else in the house, probably out in the living room.
I have one in my I have one in my guest. Yeah, so mine is in my guest bathroom, and then I gave my mom the one that I made because Beauty and the Beast is her favorite movie. Oh. So the one I made is at my parents' house. So.
But funny story about that night. I definitely faked sick to get out of work so that I could be on time to that.
Mm-hmm.
And now they know.
Okay, I don't work there.
Don't work there.
And the two people I had to lie to about it, my coordinator and the trainer on duty, I don't really care for them either. So.
It all worked out.
It's fine.
And there's movies I like. I mean, there's movies I'm like, oh yeah, I remember its existence, but it was like like you'll talk about Disney movies that I'm like, I didn't even know this existed, and I was like alive and of the age of like should have seen it. What was like three something? I'm thinking.
Three Caballeros.
Yeah, never even knew that existed.
So we are going to be coming into relatively soon. I want to say it comes out May. Home on the Range will be coming out as one of the upcoming episodes, and I hate that movie subjectively with everything in me. And I talk about it in detail, but I definitely felt the need when we recorded that episode to tell people, like, I swear to God, I was objective when it comes to this, because the hardest part about doing our podcast is to be as objective as possible. We make it and break down the rubric and conference with each other before, we are locked into a final score and say, is this objective? And at the end of that episode, I have a disclaimer that I recorded that I felt compelled to do that said, look, I hate this movie and I haven't, made any qualms about it. Nobody's under any type of any other, notion that I hate this movie, but we did put this through the microscope and through the same rigorous process that we have with every movie, and we've seen it on both ends, right? We've recorded my favorite episode or my favorite movie in the entire canon, which is Emperor's New Groove. And now we've recorded my least favorite in the canon. And even though we've recorded my favorite, I didn't give it 100 out of 100. When I put it under the microscope, it ended up in the range of like the 70s. And I hate
mid-70s.
that. Subjectively, I hate that about it. It's 100 in my book, but like, when I put it under the microscope, it's not. So when I put my least favorite movie in the canon in the microscope, I was like, no, seriously, this movie sucks and I can prove it.
That's part of...
I did not rage, onto this movie with a subjective lens. Like, this is exactly why I gave it the score I did.
Right, and that's kind of part of why we took this on, is because we want to be able to like scientifically prove why a movie is good or bad, because this is a discussion that Disney fans have, is, you know, this is my favorite, this is your favorite, and people will get into, you know, arguments over mine's better than yours and yada yada. And so this is intended as like the objective, this is where we're at. This is breaking it down piece by piece, point by point, which ones are better than which ones.
I love this about you. Did you, going into it, did you, I know you're not done yet, but like, did you have a guess of what you think would become the number one? Like,
we had a couple of guesses. We haven't gotten to them all yet, but currently sitting in number one is Lion King at like 94, I want to say.
Was that one of your guesses?
High. Yeah.
Yes, we knew Lion King was going to be high. Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King.
We still haven't done what I think is going to end up being number one, which is Beauty and the Beast. And that's because Howard Ashman had the most musical control over Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. And I think Beauty and the Beast was the most cohesive project. You know, where we finally got, you know, our legs under us in the Renaissance, and you can tell how much Howard Ashman was involved in that. So, you know, I think that Beauty and the Beast is gonna bypass Lion King, but until we put it under the microscope, it's hard to say. But my money is if anything is gonna overtake Lion King, I think it has to be Beauty and the Beast.
It's gonna be close either way.
Yeah, I think that's the. I think Aladdin did not hold up as well as I remembered.
Really? I think Aladdin will also be high.
I think Aladdin will be high. I think that Aladdin still has the potential to be top 10. But yeah, there are definitely some things that you can criticize it for validly.
White actors, like, I guess, I mean, it depends if you get really into that. But like, I just remember like. Well, the podcast I love, Blank Check. They just did a series on Ron Clements and
John Musker.
Yes, yeah, and love listening to them talk about Aladdin, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually watched it earlier today because I needed something to turn on.
Comfort movie.
You know, default, and I did notice that they actually put the disclaimer before it now. About, you know, cultural insensitivities, and you know, in 1992, you know, we thought that this was a good idea, wasn't a good decision then, isn't a good decision now, but you know, we've kept the movie's integrity, you know, so we can still shine a light on you know, what we did in the past, and open up those conversations. And
and
I was actually surprised because I didn't remember it being on there the last time I watched it.
I don't remember it being on there either.
But, you know, times have definitely changed, especially in the past few months. So I think that we're a lot more willing to have those conversations now, which I think is super critical. And, you know,
what I love about that story too is because those directors end their career on Moana, which would, like, you know, was, besides being perfect, like, you know, all the complaints that people would have today about 1992's Aladdin were when they did the Moana episode. It was so, you know, I'm a big fan of. There's always a road for redemption, or a big fan of forgiveness. I'm like, what a good example of these people who like made that movie in '92, and by 2018 they made Moana, and like they had learned. Like,
shameless plug, our Moana episode is about to come out now. So by the time this is released, it will be a recent episode in our feed. Featuring our incredible friend Katie Corpus, who really knows her stuff about the development process. We actually talk a little bit about the impact to the Pacific Islander community. It was not as well received as you would imagine, even though Disney did a lot more due diligence on that than
I heard that in the
Aladdin
episode
in the 90s.
Because they kind of
I mean, I think
they mushed them all together. It was like they wouldn't even.
I would definitely still argue that Disney is making the right strides. I mean, with Raya and the Last Dragon, we also saw more strides. But, you know, there are still some valid criticisms that come from those communities that say, hey, you know, we focused a whole lot on having, you know, Chinese or Korean actors, and there's a whole lot more to Asia than China and Korea. You know, let's get some more, you know, representation. The next time that we have something, you know, it's good that we're getting represented, but, you know, let's let's take it to the next level. And I think that as long as we are perceptive to listening to that valid criticism and valid feedback, those communities deserve a seat at the table, and those communities deserve to have those criticisms be heard and taken to heart. And I think that as long as a community we are perceptive to that, then I think that we'll still be moving in the right direction.
Yeah, Disney's it is hard to make a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate do anything. So, I mean, listen, I know it's never going to be enough. It is what it is. We're in a grateful mode right now. So I'm happy there's some changes at the better. But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, Moana is like, culturally, I think Frozen is the movie that people would think is like all little kids are obsessed with, which it definitely is. But there's definitely another subset, which my family was Moana, and I don't know why. It was the first thing my daughter ever loved that because we probably had watched it with her when she was little. And then one time we were at Target and there was a cutout of Moana and she pointed and I think maybe pre-verbal and I was like, oh, and that just became, oh my God. And I still like it, and I've honestly seen it 500 times. I'm not even exaggerating, and I've listened to the soundtrack. I listened to the soundtrack with her today, and we were driving back from a great day at the park with my brother and my nephew, and the song with Grandma Talo was on. I'm like,
yep, it hits you right in the feels.
So good, and I don't feel that way about Frozen.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how those movies hit for different people. Frozen is absolutely a phenomenon. And I think I personally enjoy Frozen more than Moana subjectively. But that's also because I relate to Elsa as a character and her growth and her fear and her trauma processing, as it applies to my own life. But I can definitely see why Moana is a phenomenon for that other subset of people that love the revival. I think that that's what makes the Disney canon beautiful, is that people can put movies on such a high pedestal and fall in love with it so much, and the reasons can just be, innumerable, because there's so much to love about a given movie.
Actually, I want to switch gears a little bit because you both worked at Disney.
Yes, we did.
What was that like? I know, Caroline, I know you had been to the theme parks already because was it in office hours? You said that story when your parents took you when you were 2. But
yep.
What was it like going from visitor to employee?
Well, I know for me it's a little different than Nicole because I did not grow up in Florida. But my parents are massive Disney nerds like me, mostly my mom. But they grew up taking me to Disney. They're Disney Vacation Club members, which was basically Disney's answer to the 90s timeshare craze. They were also annual pass holders for a little while. They have the Disney Visa card. They're all in on the Disney bucket. And that was a significant part of my childhood. So when it wasn't going to Disney World for summer vacation, we were going to the Disney Resort in Hilton Head. And one summer we went
into something, huh?
Yeah, one summer we went to Disneyland in California and wrapped a visit to my cousins who live in LA into that as well. So it's definitely been a significant part of my upbringing, largely through my mom. And actually, my aunt and uncle came to visit tonight, and they have grandkids, my cousin's kids, who are 5 and almost 3, and they're talking about their first Disney trip. And so we're getting the next generation now into it as well. So it's definitely been a big part of my life in terms of being a visitor and a guest and a consumer of the Disney parks. Transitioning to being a cast member, I kind of got to ease myself into it because I was an intern. So I was only there for 6 months to start out with. I went in 2013 for my spring semester of my sophomore year of college, and then stayed for the summer, and then went back to school and finished my degree. But I kind of got dip my toes in the water, get a couple of experiences under my belt and see, okay, do I like this, or is this just like, check it off my bucket list and go do something else with my life? Nah, I fell in love with it, man. And I think part of that was because I only dipped my toes in and I didn't get the experience of being there for a long time and having to deal with red tape and politics and
budget cuts.
Oh God, budget cuts. And, working long hours. They will work CP's long hours, but I was lucky enough to be in a line of business where our closing time was either 10 or 11 during the 6 months that I was there. And I couldn't work any later than 10:30 or 11:30, whereas my roommate, who worked in Magic Kingdom, could be out until 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely depends on your work location and your role, whether you're a full-time, part-time, or college program intern, in terms of what your experience is. But I got to do some really cool things and meet some really cool people, and I can say that I experienced things that very few other people in the world will ever experience. But it is a good thing that I left when I did, because I would not be making this show, and I would not be a Disney travel agent, and I would not be, doing all of these other Disney related things anymore if I had stayed any longer, because I would be burnt out on it and I would hate it.
I know that feeling very much, of being burnt out on things. What about you, Nicole?
So when I was a young child, so I grew up my entire life in Florida. When I was a really young child in the 90s, my grandparents took my parents and my aunt and uncle and my great-grandmother, and we all went to Disney World for my 3rd birthday. That was our first trip to Disney as like a big family. And they also bought into DVC. They were like those inaugural members, so they got all these perks. So Disney was the vacation of choice because we were in South Florida. Disney's in Orlando, not too far. You could make a trip out of it for like 3 or 4 days, or do the whole Disney Death March experience, which was go there for a week, do all the parks open to close every day, with only like a break in the middle for me to take a nap, and like you just went right back to it. So we would do that for fun. And when I was a young child, I had very high aspirations for myself. We went to Typhoon Lagoon, and on the lazy river of theirs, they have lifeguards, stationed periodically. And I pointed to one of them and I said, "Mom, Dad, I want to be a lifeguard when I grow up. That looks so cool." Children, please don't aim to be a lifeguard as your lifelong dream. Like, please aim for anything else. But that was my lifelong dream. And I was like, one day I am going to be a Disney lifeguard. Fast forward to the 2000s, we end up moving to Orlando because my dad gets a role with Disney for the cruise line. As a shoreside cast member. So we ended up as one of those perks of working for the company. You end up getting these passes where you can go. He had a level of a pass where my sibling, my mom, and I could go as much as we wanted. And my sibling and I were both homeschooled. So we would go like every week, multiple times a week. And it was a way for my sibling to get all their energy out because they were crazy and hyperactive. But
Guilty.
we use that as like part of the learning experience. We would go to Epcot all the time, and we would, look at flowers for the Flower and Garden Festival, and we would try new foods with Food and Wine, and we would experience all of the different pavilions for the different countries of the world. So that was my backyard. That was my playground, for several years in those formative years. So that really only grew that love that I had as a young child into like my preteen and teen years. And then, when I turned 18, I needed a job when, I was home for weekends and summers and holidays. And I was like, well, Disney's right down the road. why don't I apply? So I was a seasonal lifeguard for like 3 years, and I worked stupid hours. I literally stayed at my parents' to occupy the bed that they still had for me. I would work 60 to 70 hour weeks every week. I would work, 8 to 8 or 9 to 9. And I was a lifeguard at one of the water parks because that's where I wanted to work. So that's what I did. And that's basically what consumed my life. Whenever I was not at college, I would come home and just work constantly. And then when the cold months hit, when I was home for like Christmas holiday, they would close the water parks because it was actually too cold to run them. So I would get deployed over to Hollywood Studios. I would get deployed to Epcot. I would get deployed to Magic Kingdom. I would work at Animal Kingdom. So I got to end up working like all of these random positions for like 2 or 3 days at a time, waiting for the weather to warm up so we could open water parks again. And, I have done all sorts of weird stuff. I have worked in the back of merchandise locations, like folding shirts and putting tags on things. I was the person outside of Kilimanjaro Safaris that said, sorry, we're out of fast passes for the day. There's the bathroom. Like, and I just had like a pocket full of fast passes I could give out to people to like make magic, and give that to, families that I thought deserved a little bit of magic throughout the day. I got to work Epcot on New Year's Eve as crowd control because the crowds are insane on New Year's Eve, but I got to watch illuminations like on the clock. I got to watch the parades on the clock. Like there's just so much cool stuff that you can potentially do with the company. And that's what I was in it for, and I ended up working with a theme park in one way or another for like 8 or 9 years. So, theme parks are really in my DNA. I'm not with theme parks anymore, which almost feels foreign to me, but I really got a great love and admiration for that hospitality, customer service area. You take the good and you take the bad. That's in every job. But I got to do it in these short bursts where that's all I would do for like, a few weeks at a time. And then I would have, weeks away from it. So I got to do it more on like my time, and do a lot more of what I wanted. And I, satisfied the life ambitions of 3-year-old me, which was go be a lifeguard of all things. So
And your dad is a cast member?
He was, previously. He was with the Disney Cruise Line team Shoreside, for about 5 years. But he did, he did something IT related.
He has some crazy Disney memorabilia at his house.
Yeah, the Disney memorabilia at my parents' house is over 9,000, like crazy. But yeah, so because he worked for the cruise line, and he was shoreside, occasionally he would have to go onto a specific ship and, do an entire itinerary or two in order to make sure that, systems got updated and things were running normal, whatever IT stuff. And occasionally, we would be able to go on those trips with him. So we would do Disney cruises like for fun. And, my dad got to be with the Disney Wonder the first time that it got put up into Norfolk, Virginia, for their dry dock season to do like that refresh. He was actually up there when 9/11 happened. So like it was... So like there's all of these like really strong memories that I have of my dad working for the cruise line. And the last hurrah that we did was on the 5-year anniversary. They gave all 4 of us a free 1-week trip, and we were able to do one of the 1-bedroom suites on the back end of I can't remember if it was the Magic or the Wonder, because those were the only 2 ships sailing at the time. But we did one of these 1-bedroom suites at the very back, and we had this huge wraparound deck. They would let us order room service from like any restaurant we wanted. My mom and I were seasick the first night, one night, and my sibling and my dad went off to dinner, and the concierge was like, "What do you want from the menu? Like, order anything and we'll bring it to you." And we were like, hell yeah, that's going to make us feel better. So they brought it in. They got it from the actual restaurant downstairs. They brought it up. They put the tablecloth down. They brought all the cutlery that you needed. Like, it was like being there, but they brought it to us. It was amazing. Like, I have no words. That was one of the most memorable things that I have ever done in my life.
I'm so jealous.
Right before he left the company, like, it was crazy.
I'm seeing the strong connection to the Disney now, and I remember we did our Marvel panel that your parents, Caroline, would commenting. I'm like, oh my god, that is so sweet. So I'm assuming that you both all have good relationships with your parents, and as a dad with when I'm a girl dad, I'm just like, oh, okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
they just make you super sensitive.
I'm currently living in my parents' basement, so I do have a very great relationship with them, enough for them to let me and my husband crash here for much longer than originally planned. We were only supposed to be here like 8 or 10 months and then get our own house, and then COVID happened. So here we are, a full year later, still in the basement. Still, the living room is pretty much still full of boxes. We are living out of like the 6 boxes that we unpacked and our electronics. So
good thing the housing market is wonderful right now.
Oh yeah, we are hoping to get in on that very soon. And Kevin and Nicole actually
literally hate this market. Oh my god.
Well, Disney's very childlike, so that's the childlike wonder of Disney. Probably that's a transition. I'm sure that works.
That's our escape, really.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And I know I have friends like I'm like very similar. Like I get very passionate about some of my passion. I kind of jump around, so sometimes they don't always. There's not always crossover in terms of friends. Like my punk rock, like my scene punk friends don't give two shits about Marvel movies, and then like my friends that like Marvel movies don't care about anything I have to talk about, like music related or comedy or something.
Well, congratulations. Nicole and Kevin are also into the scene punk, alt rock.
What? Why didn't we start with this?
Because we could talk about things all freaking day. I was actually thinking about it yesterday. Of all things, and like how in high school, like you get the label of like the jock or the theater nerd or the the academic nerd, and I did all of that. Well, I was in theater, and I was on a varsity tennis team, and I was maxing out my credit hours in high school. Like I didn't have a label because I was like everything, and like
did everything,
good, bad, or otherwise. Like I just had so much that I wanted to do that like you couldn't put like one label on it. But yeah, Machine Gun Kelly has a new song out with Corpse Husband that I'm absolutely obsessed with.
I have to listen to it.
It's called Daywalker. Absolutely go stream it. It's amazing.
Wait, so if you're Florida, so Newfound Glory?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they play Newfound Glory occasionally on the... Yeah.
Yep, Dashboard Confessional is from... he's from Connecticut, but formed in Florida. We've been trying to get Chris Carrabba on here for a while. That's Bree. That's one of Bree's things. Oh my god, I had no idea. This kind of makes me super happy.
Nicole introduced me to Hailstorm when we first really became friends, and it changed my life.
You're Disney people. Do you know Suburban Legends?
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't think
they're a ska band. But they started off as They started off as a band at Disney, like they worked there, and then became like a ska band. Then
my husband was actually in a ska band when he was younger.
Yeah, Stephen would know.
And opened for some like major group. He has played saxophone, guitar, bass, all sorts of things.
Has he ever listened to Let's Chat? Because I've had some ska people on that he would like.
He has listened when I've been listening.
If you like ska,
I don't know the ska. I don't. That's not my music scene, but I guarantee if I like had him go back through your catalog, he would recognize names.
Just walk over to him and be like, Revel interviewed Pete from Streetlight Manifesto. and see what happens. Cause
I do know who that is.
They are, yeah.
They're the ska band that non-ska kids like, and Taylor Morden, who did the ska documentary called "Pick It Up Ska" in the '90s.
Yes, I do remember you doing that episode,
which was really good. Was really, really good. You know, I love ska. Oh my god. But yeah, they're a ska band. I think they're probably most known because they did Disney ska covers like DuckTales and stuff.
Yes, we listen to Ska Network a lot on YouTube. He's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, I actually want to get him on here because he played in We Are the Union, and like I used to really like them. And the old singer of Flaming Tsunamis was my friend Andy. I was like, that probably would be easier to get to. I'd messaged with him a couple times, but it hasn't happened. Well, there's just no time in the day. Like I want to interview every single. I mean, God, if I had the time and the money, and knock on wood, that's the goal. I would just Joe Rogan it, minus being the bad person, and just take a bunch of money and just talk to 20 people a day.
Facts, right? One of his favorite ska bands is Save Ferris.
Oh yeah, Come On Eileen, and featured in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yep.
Classic movie.
He will always argue with me that their version of "Come On Eileen" is better than the original. I think that's false. Right. I think that's 100% false.
Right. Her voice is incredible.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I thoroughly enjoy that version. I think they go too fast.
Oh God,
I think the tempo is just too fast. That's my personal opinion. I have strong feelings about that song just because of the nostalgia associated with it in my high school years, but.
Oh God, yeah. This is too much fun. This is why we're all in the same crew of people, of nerds who do things like this on a Saturday.
I need to read this out loud.
Yeah, definitely.
Because so we have a group text, the four of us. No, my husband just texted our foursome group chat, and he says, I don't know why you all are talking about ska music, but I'm being called out. It's taking everything I have in me not to shout out and say something.
Can he come in?
I can bring him on the mic.
Yeah, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Like, I know. Are you okay to go a little longer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
I have nothing to do. Oh my God, please. This is what I live for. This is only the second time someone's pulled a guest in like this, and one time I interviewed two of the writers from Bob's Burgers, and they're like, "Who do you want to talk to?" And I was like, Calvin, you." And Calvin,
you have the short list of the long.
I got Stephen for you. Let's talk some ska.
Oh my goodness, this is dangerous, Stephen. We're gonna have to do this in an Iron Man shirt.
Oh my gosh! Hi, I wasn't planning on being on camera or recording today.
Oh, good thing we're recording live. No, I mean,
I would freak him the hell out.
I know it's your wife's podcast. Like, oh my! So, I just heard that you've just when someone knows what ska is, I get kind of excited.
So ska was really big. They're like, depending on which wave, first wave, second wave, or third wave ska, depending on where you came in, like it's really isolated to that group that listened to it. It's kind of like grunge, but a little less well known. At least I feel like if people know ska, like if someone knows about ska, they either love it ska or hate it. But like 80% of the people,
No, I'm all in. I mean, I came into the third wave. I grew up in Connecticut, where like Spring Heel Jack was like God, so like for anyone listening, they were like not that big, but they're a band. Unfortunately, I think their drummer or singer died, but like it was they were like a super group. That every member from that band went on to become in like Boss Tones, Real Big Fish, and like all the, I think the Toasters, Tossers, like everyone from that band would go on. Nicole, I'm sorry we're losing you, aren't you?
No, I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm multitasking.
Kevin's like, I want to talk about ska.
No, I came in mostly on third wave ska, although I was familiar with second wave ska, although it was the tail end of second wave ska, because I just wasn't old enough to appreciate and know about second wave. I grew up in Florida, so there was a lot of Latin influence, and a lot of ska came from the Latin influence with the horn sections.
We have the same age. Did you remember Whole Wheat Bread? The band?
No.
They were like three black musicians. They were kind of ska, pop punk, but it was funny because their name was Whole Wheat Bread.
About as white.
It's like the white, or maybe they're like white bread or something like that. They were really good. The Skeptics. I don't know the ska. Oh, Les and Jake. That's the big ska.
Oh man. So
his
okay, this is one of
podcast
my
is incredible, by the way.
I didn't know that Les and Jake had a podcast.
Yeah, it's called Krista Makes a Podcast, and he literally sits down with an artist and they break down their song, and it's...
Oh man, that's awesome.
We're not plugging someone else's show.
So you mentioned Les and Jake, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell about Les and Jake. This is the reason why I boycott the Hard Rock Cafe theaters and any venue that they are associated with. When I was about 15 or 16 or so, I went to a... who opened for them? I don't remember who opened for it, but it was a Real Big Fish and Les and Jake were the headliners, and there were a couple of other smaller ska bands. And Hard Rock has a hard no moshing rule policy. I'm like, okay, depending on the band that you have, and because you are a high visibility label or a high visibility venue and such, I can understand the no moshing. But when you're at a ska concert, you're not moshing, you're skanking. So my friend Danielle, she got pulled during the opening band for skanking. She got kicked out and was not allowed to be, not allowed re-entry. I got pulled halfway through Real Big Fish's set for skanking and wasn't allowed re-entry. And so me and Danielle, and they kept on pulling people for skanking. I'm like, skanking is not moshing, like,
or violent.
Big difference. And so we sat outside, like the group of us that kept on getting pulled out and like excommunicated from the Hard Rock, from the ska show, that like, because we were all super young. There was everyone was about my age. We're like, this is the first time Real Big Fish has come to Orlando in a very, very long time. And so we had our own mini concert outside, and we were skanking off of Hard Rock Cafe's grounds, so they couldn't do anything about it. And so we were just like,
oh, those are the days.
Oh man, I love telling that story because just like I got kicked out of Hard Rock Cafe for skanking, like
at a ska show. For like the friendliest people
at a ska show. How do you go to a ska show and not skank and dance? Just how do you do that?
What were you into, Nicole? Like growing up in Florida, besides musicals?
So I had a really big musical phase. But I had a little bit of everything. So I grew up in South Florida, so the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. So there was a lot of Latin influence. And there was also a big, hip hop and R&B scene, especially in the 90s, because that was like the golden age. So I grew up with a little bit of that. I grew up, with the traditional 90s pop and, boy bands and Britney Spears and all that fun stuff. And then, when in the early 2000s, we cut off all music that wasn't like anything current. Like we just completely cut that off, for whatever reason, in my household. So we got into classic rock at that point. My mom loves Def Leppard and Whitesnake. So we would listen to like a bunch of classic rock. Yeah. My dad was really into Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Journey. My grandfather loved the Eagles, like just kind of like all over the place. And then when I was in high school and college, that's when I got back into like current music. I really enjoyed modern rock and alternative. So we would listen to so much like Linkin Park and Papa Roach, Chevelle, Disturbed.
My childhood right there.
Yeah, Avenged Sevenfold. I'm absolutely obsessed with them. Like I don't care if they get any hate. Like they were huge for me. So when the Rev passed away, like that was their drummer. Like that was
that's
just
right.
Everything.
I still remember where I was when that.
Disastrous. So, like I kind of just grew up with a little bit of everything. I think that there's still pretty strong Latin influence. Like I love Bad Bunny right now. I still listen to a good bit of rock and alternative. And I still love musicals. So I'm just kind of all over the place. I've recently been listening to Corpse Husband because I follow him on, Among Us streams and stuff. So I listen to a lot of his music. Lil Nas X is super controversial right now, so I'm obviously listening to him. So I'm just everywhere. There's not much music that I dislike. So, you'll find me kind of all over the place, and I love that. I don't, you know, I don't consider myself like a super elitist when it comes to music. I just kind of take all of it, and once I find something I like, I'm just obsessed with it until, you know, I've absolutely worn it out.
Where do we all land on Taylor Swift?
I couldn't get into her when I was when I was growing up. I was absolutely the ideal like age range. Respect the Hustle, don't get it.
Even now, even with Folklore?
It's fine. Like it's not like a oh my god, she's pissing me off, I have to turn this off. Like I don't hate her. Like I don't get the hate for her. It's just not something that I'll automatically turn to. Demi Lovato's new album, though, I am absolutely bumping that. The Artist Starting Over, where she's talking about her overdose and her road to recovery. Love that. Ariana Grande, obsessed with her. Really like Cardi B, partially because she's controversial. I like listening to the controversial stuff. But yeah, I'm just kind of all over the place, and I'm okay with that.
I think for Taylor, I liked her music. Then I saw the documentary Netflix did, and then I was like, oh, okay. Once there's like an authentic person I attached to, I'm like, okay, you're a very. I think she's gonna be like
she's
Dolly
very
Parton.
authentic. Yeah, very genuine. I actually really liked the "Look What You Made Me Do" music video. I thought the song left something to be desired for me, but I really liked the music video and what she did with it. I know that her early work, I didn't like. I actually didn't like because it was very chord specific. She did not move out of like the same 3 or 5 chords, and I could not get down with that. Yeah. And
she
like
was 12.
Yeah, she was young, so like
again, that's fair.
Sense. Yeah, and it's totally fair. I just didn't like listening to it, so I would turn it off. But anything after those first couple albums, I'm like, all right, like I don't hate it. I won't turn it off. But you know, it's still not something where it's like I'll actively seek it out.
Sure.
Unless like one of the songs gets stuck in my head. I have a 2010s playlist. So we are never ever getting back together. Like that will come on, and I'm like, I like that song. Like bump that shit. Shake It Off. Like that's just an earworm. So like, you know,
that is a very, very catchy song.
Yeah, like you're not gonna be like, oh my god, I actively hate this. Like, okay, yeah, it got annoying because it just got played so much. But
sure.
Like, you know,
That's not exclusive to Taylor Swift. That happens with just everything on the radio.
Literally everything. Yeah. So I am actually all over the place, and I'm okay with that. But like, I do the same thing with sports. Like, I follow hockey, baseball, football, college and pro. Let's see, I follow a little bit of basketball. I love watching the women's soccer national team. Love watching them. I watch gymnastics, college and elite. I like watching figure skating. Like I'm just everywhere, and like
I love that.
I'm not like I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you like football? Name the 5 most recent quarterbacks of the Miami Dolphins. Like fuck that. Like I've been following them since I was a child, and like I still can't do that because we've had so many quarterbacks. You know, like I can't stand
gatekeeping. It's stupid.
I can't stand the gatekeeping. I can't.
You made a man talking to a woman about a subculture.
Fuck, I hate it. Sorry,
too.
you can cut that. But like, yeah, I hate it. I can't. I can't stand gatekeeping. Like if you like the sport and you like, you know, watching it, or you like music and you like listening to it because, you know, it gives you joy, like live your life, you know,
listen to it.
Yeah. Like I'm not
do what you want to do,
what
you want to do, like what you want to like. Why is anyone telling you otherwise?
Should we,
I had a guy at a restaurant a couple weeks ago. I went to go see people. They had like an outdoor patio seating place. And the guy literally stopped me because I was wearing my Tampa Bay Lightning, World Cup champs t-shirt. And he was like, you know, your shirt's a lie, right? And I was like, excuse me? And he was like, you know, your shirt's a lie. The Penguins have won more cups than you guys ever have. And I was like, tell me more. I'm so interested. I don't give a shit. Like, what? Why did you feel the need to stop me to talk about your team? Like, I don't know you. And like, my team won it all last year. Sorry that your team sucks. I don't know. Like, yeah, exactly. I just, great. I'm so glad you're overcompensating and you feel the need to tell a woman that like her shirt is a fucking lie because you're mad that your team sucks. I don't know what to tell you.
Should we steal your wife back?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah, no, you can totally have her back. I heard you guys talking about ska, and I got called out, and I was like,
You
okay.
did not get called out. We said that we needed you here if we were going to talk about ska because you were our expert for it.
Before you go though, did you watch Pick It Up?
No, I'm not a ska expert. I love ska, and I played in ska or ska band, and I played a lot of instruments. It's just, there's so many, like, you can never know. Ska never got big enough to like get mainstream, so there's so many pockets of ska everywhere that I never got to listen to. And I mean, you can count the number of ska bands that made it big on like both hands. And like some of them got really big, some of them didn't, and it's just like, I love, like, whenever someone comes up to me with an album from like a ska band or like a punk rock band from like their local region, I'm like, give it to me. I will take anything and everything I have. My favorite ska band was actually a local band called Union Rising, and this was the band that I opened for, and they toured up and down the East Coast a little bit, but they were a real big hit in Central Florida, almost like the Supervillains, just not as big. And we opened for them at a local venue. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like 15-year-old Steven's dream. I'm in a ska band opening for one of my favorite ska bands. Like, that was incredible.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal. So like, I will take any and every ska music and local band and local punk rock band that is thrown at me and listen to and enjoy and promote and everything like that.
I'm with you. Awesome.
But I'm going to get off now and give the microphone back to my wife.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. That was so fun.
Absolutely. I wasn't expecting that. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Steven.
I know, and we videoed tonight, which we never do. So it's like, hopefully we're all dressed appropriately.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just love your husband. Well, I love both of your husbands.
He's
They're
pretty
keepers.
great.
Yeah,
They
they're
are.
keepers.
I think we should have Steven start co-hosting Let's Chat Live.
Oh my
He
god.
is not a super fan of being on camera or listening to
ska.
himself talk.
We'll find some
Yeah, do a ska
later.
episode.
If you find a ska episode, I think you could talk him into it.
Yeah, well,
probably.
there are ska podcasts that I know of that I listen to. So I was just thinking, like, no, we'll get them on. And I was like, all right, just stop. I don't know.
You could get him.
Sometimes you
could probably reel him in on that one, yeah.
Yeah, but do you ever have? I'm sure you both have that problem where you just like you get those ideas and you're like, oh, that'd be so fun. I'm like, nope, you have too much on your plate. Sounds like work. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
it, Christopher. Because then I end dropping.
Our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
We launched it, and none of us have really had time to do anything with it. Kevin was starting to just turn episodes into like headliner.
Hey,
things.
at least you stole it, so no one else can take that name.
That's true.
Yeah, we have that.
We do have it.
That's the best thing. But yeah, I didn't touch YouTube for like 7 years. Like I just had it because I just
Yeah.
was like, I don't want anyone else to have this. And
We also were working with a couple of friends for transcription for all of our episodes because accessibility is really important to us. But both of them got COVID, and then Josh lost his job, and so they were both doing like DoorDash and Instacart basically all the time in order to be able to like survive. And they have a tiny house, so like their expenses are pretty small to begin with.
yeah.
But they also have a 5-year-old. So like
Yep. Everything comes down
he
to
is
time,
growing
energy,
to eat
and
them
money.
out of house and home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
love
like-
that child. He's adorable, but he is a handful.
Handful. Yeah.
So
So I think that there's just like so much that we want to do, and definitely things that are like making sure that we're more accessible are definitely at the top of that list. But you know, it does take time and resources, and we're constantly on the hunt to find those to make things more accessible. But it's definitely, you know, that's one of the drawbacks of going the podcast route is that it's not necessarily accessible for everyone. So, you know, trying to find that happy medium is difficult. But, you know, we want to make sure that we're making every effort we can to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. And I think that that's why, you know, we're also, you know, we don't hide all of our content behind a paywall. You know, we do early access with our Ko-fi subscriptions, but we do ultimately end up releasing everything because, you know, we think that we're providing a net positive to the world, and that shouldn't have to be behind a paywall to get things like the interview that we did with Jerusha on her work with Festival of the Lion King and her experiences as an actress. Those were really important conversations, and they were happening at a good time. So I think that putting that out to the public, and giving that open access was important. And I don't think, for me, at the end of the day, like, it's not about the money necessarily. Like, if we can at the end of the day, like, bring in enough to make sure that this isn't like just a passion project that we just sink money into, then like that's golden for us. If some pie in the sky, we end up being able to do this full time, not having to work, yada yada, like, sure, great, wonderful. But like, the realistic goal for someone like me who's very practical would be, we bring in just enough to cover the monthly expenses and
maybe buy ourselves some new equipment.
Yeah, and make sure that we get equipment that isn't crap. Like, that's...
We just want Disney World to fly us to their park. Like, just they should pay us to talk about their brand. Is that so hard?
If we could raise enough money for a Defining Disney Visits Disney World trip, that'd be
you're part of the club, so like,
episode.
Is there a way they can send us too? Let's just add to it. This bill is getting ridiculous.
Just the whole Let's Chat crew.
The whole crew.
Just the whole. Let's do like a retreat.
Don't even worry. That's definitely something we talk about all the time. When conventions come back, at least in the short term, when they do come back, hit up those press passes. They're so
for sure.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
You'll be able to definitely get into cons and stuff, at the very least.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, our friend Kate, she is a writer for Chip and Co. So she already has a lot of the ins, and she's gotten to interview some really cool people. She actually got to talk to Don Hahn, one of the Disney Renaissance like big shot producers, one-on-one for an interview for Chip and Co. And then like stayed on off the record with him and talked for like 30 minutes. And he offered for her to like send him a screenplay because she is also a writer, and she and I have been working on a pilot for the Ironheart series since before they announced that there was going to be an Ironheart series. It had been rumored, so like we were pretty sure it was coming, but she and I started working on it like back in August or September.
Your personalities are making so much sense now. So why did you do the show you do?
Yeah. And I actually have now gotten to also talk to Don Hahn. I did a really cool Story Summit animation writing workshop a couple of weeks ago. Kevin and Nicole are in the many shit posting groups specific to Disney movies, and some of the more social media friendly creatives on those are in those groups, like Tab Murphy, who wrote Hunchback, which we just did watch night for, Atlantis, Brother Bear, and he was sort of the faculty member that got this big group of Disney animation people together for this story summit, and he posted in all of his groups about it, and Kevin sent it to me. He's like, "Care, you should do this. This looks so cool." And I, by some miracle, was able to snag a spot in the class for really cheap. And I got to talk to Tab Murphy, David Kirkpatrick, former head of both Paramount Pictures and Disney Animation Studios, Don Hahn, Gary Truesdale, and Kirk Wise, who directed Beauty and the Beast and Hunchback, and Atlantis. And then, I'm not going to come up with her name. She was very great. She was the only female on the panel, and she didn't do her talk for the evening class because we did a roundtable instead, but she worked on some of the Disney movies, including Hunchback, but also Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. So she's a writer and researcher. She got to go on a lot of the location research trips for Spirit and go to like the national parks and stuff.
I hope you try to leverage these to some guests for the future. I
really want to. I think Tab would be an awesome podcast guest. I know that he does that. Don is far more private, so he it's a miracle that he even did this in the first place. And I think they're going to get him to do more things for this Story Summit school, which is really cool.
Plant that seed now, Sometimes you wait. Sometimes you plant the seed and wait 3-4 years.
Well, and I got selected several times to ask questions because basically what they did is they put together like a 30 to 45 minute lecture, and then the last 15 to 30 minutes of the class was Q&A, and it was in like a video chat form on Zoom. And so everyone had to type their questions in to the chat box. And if you were selected to ask your question, they would call your name. You could unmute your mic and physically, verbally ask the question to them and have like a small conversation. And I actually got to plug the show, not just to all of the people watching, but also to Tab Murphy and Don Hahn, which was really crazy. And got to have some really cool conversations with them. I actually did shoot my shot with Don Hahn. I asked him outright, how do I get a screenplay on your desk? And he said, you kind of don't, but I appreciate your gumption. He is just that big that if you don't already have a reputation as a screenwriter, it is very difficult to get your work in front of him. So the fact that he offered that to Kate several months ago.
That's actually really helpful advice.
It's kind of huge. I don't know if he was just being nice to her or if he was serious, but either way, I have I have somebody who's like forwarding questions to his email for us. So who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah. Oh, this has been super fun, but we're going to start wrapping it up. Is there anything that we missed? No, I don't think so. I just want to make sure there's no
think so.
burning topics, because I know there's so many turns to take. As I'm sure you know, a podcast, you're like, I have to do everything, and then I pare it down. I was like, it'd be weird if we didn't talk about Disney. Like, it would just be weird. It would be so not.
That's why we write down absolutely everything, and like are so structured, because we could talk forever.
Yeah. Our episodes would end up being like 2.5 hours or longer if we didn't write everything out, because we would just go on the tangents.
Mm-hmm.
So where can people find you online? I'll go to my right now. Nicole, start us off.
Yeah, so you can find us everywhere that you get your podcasts. Specifically, some of the big ones are Spotify and Apple. We are very active on Twitter at Defining Disney Podcast. And
at Defining Disney.
Sorry, at Defining Disney. We can edit that in post. At Defining Disney. And please come and join us for our watch nights. We host them every other Thursday night at 8 p.m. And that is when we are going through the canon and doing our scores in real time, getting feedback from everyone. And then we also collect those thoughts in order to put them on the podcast episode specifically.
Yes, we are also on Facebook at Defining Disney Podcast. We're also on Instagram at Defining Disney Podcast. I just posted a shot of Stephen on the mic because that literally never happens. To our Instagram. We are not as active there, but if you want to follow us, contact us, RSVP to our events on Facebook when we do them for watch nights, which I'm trying to get better at. That is a great way to do that. You can also check out our website, definingdisneypodcast.com. That is where you can find our graph where we have every score that we have given in the canon so far, and you can see which ones are ranked how. You can also find on that website a link that says join our Ohana. And if you click that button and enter your email, you will be on our email list, which gets for free every month a free sneak peek calendar to see what is on our list for the next 2 months, the current month and the following one. So you'll see what movies we're watching, what episodes we're releasing, what bonus content we're doing, guest episodes that are coming out, things like that. When we have enough notice to put them on there. And every month you get a new one.
Oh, well,
so the one that's sent to you introductorily is the current one, and then every new month you'll get another one.
I can't think you both about them.
It also has for free the score along guide that we do. So if you want to visit us. If you want to visit with us on watch nights, we have our score along guide, which will break down our rubric for you, not just category by category, but criterion by criterion. So those like sub points within each category that are worth like sometimes only 1 point. Sometimes they're worth up to 7, or I think 10 is the highest we have. Yeah, character development. Between 1 and 10 points they're worth, and we actually show examples of the notes that we take while we're watching, so that there's then room for you to take your own notes. So if you want to send those to us, we can feature those on the podcast as well.
Also, if you love our work and you would like to sponsor us monetarily, we do have a Ko-fi subscription. You can either do monthly subscriptions or one-time donations. That goes 100% back into the podcast. Basically, it just makes sure that our monthly costs are covered. But we want to make sure that everything is as accessible as possible. But if you do end up giving to us on the Ko-fi subscription, we do give you some bonus content, some early access, and then some of our higher tiered subscriptions give you access to our office hours every week. So there's lots of different ways to connect with us.
And we will be sending out our decals very, very soon, which is another perk that you'll get whether you're a one-time donator or a monthly subscriber.
I don't know how you do anything else in your life outside of this podcast.
Caroline's got free time.
I have lots of downtime.
I know
at work.
Caroline. She doesn't.
Well, that's also true. I really don't.
Yeah.
I work,
you have a wonderful,
including this. I work 4 jobs.
Yeah, and you have a wonderful team, and this is so much fun. Awesome.
This podcast is a proud member of the Let's Chat Club. Find out how you can become a member by going to the website letschatpodcast.net.